Alright, so this video today is going to be a little bit different because I'm not gonna cut this video at all. I'm just gonna talk through it, and there will be a lot of bloppers and blippers and wrong words, but whatever. I'm just gonna leave it all in there. And today I want to talk about 5 things that I've learned so far teaching music production to other people. And I've been teaching music production for now maybe 2 years or a little bit more. And this year, especially, I've been teaching a lot more, and also, yeah, doing these videos here on YouTube. It's kind of like teaching to me. And I just want to share some of these things that I've learned doing this. And I've took some notes here on my phone, so just excuse me while I watch my phone. The first thing that I want to share is that, or that I've learned, is that technical skills can also cloud your creativity. So when you start with music production at the very beginning and you don't know anything technical, these are the moments where you are very pure in your creativity and you're just vomiting out your ideas that you have. And I think that's where most of the greatest ideas are born sometimes. And when you further down progress in the music production journey, you learn more and more techniques, and you will also focus more and more on these technical aspects. And if you put more focus on that, maybe you will take away the focus of the creative aspects of music production. So I think that can also, like, yeah, be a little bit of a problem sometimes. Now, I also want to mention that this will also go away after some point. I hope so, or I think so, because I think once you've really learned these tools that you use and these techniques that you want to apply, that you don't have to think about them so much anymore, because it becomes more natural to you, right? And that's when you can shift your focus more into creative things again. There's also this quote by Pablo Picasso where he said basically exactly that. He said, "Learn the rules like a pro so you can break them like an artist." And that's basically just this thought that first you have to go through this phase where you will learn a lot of technical skills and how to apply them. And sometimes, and at some point, when you feel like now you know these things, you can start to experiment with them. So you can start to be more creative again. Yeah. So that's the first learning that I want to share. Now, the second point that I want to share is that teaching music production, it was also a way of like really uncovering my own blind spots. Because if I want to explain something to someone, for example, how a compressor works, and I don't know one particular thing, this will, like, I will realize that then, right? Because when you want to explain something and you don't know something, it's harder to explain it. And the easier it is to explain something, and the simpler you can explain a topic, the better you will probably know it. So when you go really deep in a topic and you really know the roots of this topic, it will be so much simpler to talk about it for you. And yeah, it's a really great way. If you explain something to someone, you will definitely know directly where you have to put in some more work, or where you have to dig deeper and learn some more things. So this was and is still really helpful for me, and I always discover new, like, rabbit holes to go down to during this process. Now, the third thing that I want to share is that the habits that I'm doing these days in music production, and that I didn't do in the past, they kind of seem so obvious to me now, like, because I have this experience and I started doing things that I didn't do in the beginning. But some of these things, I think they are very important, and it's kind of like strange to me why I didn't do that earlier on already. Maybe it's because no one was talking about these things, or I just didn't took it serious enough, or I thought that I already know everything. I don't know why, but it's like, for example, using a spectrum analyzer during the whole production process. So I always have a spectrum analyzer on a second screen, on a second monitor, and I always look at that sometimes. Like, it's just open there, and I have it open from the first note to the last note when I bounce out everything. And this really helps me to like get a get a picture of my track, like where things are sitting in the mix down. And it's almost like having speakers or headphones. It's just like a third leg almost that I can stand on and that can help me like to be sure about things even more. And when I now see like producers using not using this tool, I think like that's like so easy to implement. And yeah, I always say that this is very important, I think, because when I started to use that, I felt so much more safe with this. Yeah, so anyways, I would definitely start using this way earlier. And also like another topic is like clipping. I didn't discover clipping to until maybe like, yeah, I don't know how many years ago, but I didn't use like clipping for a long time. And when I started to use clipping, it's like it's such a game changer. And even if you could already implement this at the very beginning of your production process. And yeah, that's like another thing that I always realize. It's like that's so interesting that at the beginning these things are not talked about, but maybe other things like multiband compression, for example. It's like that's like something that a lot of beginner producers talk about. It's like multiband compression, but I don't use multiband compression as much as I use clipping. So it's interesting. Like maybe it's also because of the genre of the music that other people use other tools. So maybe it's also that. But yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting. Now, the fourth thing that I want to share is that like what I also learned now teaching other people music production is that it really helps to be more intentional with your whole environment where you produce music. So often when I see music producers just starting out, I mean it's obvious and you will change that also with experience and over time, and it's normal that it's not everything fine at the beginning, but like how your computer is set up, how your DAW is set up, how your whole like software is set up. When you like look at your computer, can you actually see something? How is your table set up with all the synthesizers? How is your room treated? And just like changing your environment, it makes things so much easier. And the workflow will improve drastically if you change some things in your environment. And it's just a very easy way to improve your production, I guess, and your whole workflow. And I think I kind of underestimated that also in the beginning a little bit, how important this is. Now, the last thing that I want to share is actually like two things, but let me just, yeah, split it in two halves. So, the first thing that I want to share is that what I also realize is that, there's this effect called the Dunning-Kruger effect. When you learn something new, goes up this very steep curve, and then you're at this peak and you think now you know everything and you're like the genius, and then everything comes crashing down and you're at the bottom of this pit and you think like, okay, now I don't know anything anymore, now I'm like a beginner again. And that's like the valley of despair. And after that, you start to climb up this ladder slowly again until you are maybe at that point again where you were before. But this time, you really actually know things like at the fundamental value, and you will be much more certain in these things. And that's like where you want to go at some point, I guess, right? With most things that you learn in life. And I find this so interesting that also in my own life, I always think about this curve. Like when I'm doing something new, also, I always think now about this curve and think like, yeah, I feel so safe now in this what I'm doing, but actually it's only at the first peak right now. And soon this valley will come. And it's so funny for me to keep this visualization in my mind always. Uh, and yeah, it just humbles me also a little bit because you will know that there's always something new to learn and it will never stop. you will always keep climbing this last part, and that's like the part where you will really learn so much more, and you will go down into some rabbit holes that you never heard about. And like that's what I love about music production. It's like it's never ending, and the more you go into it, the more it expands, and that's so beautiful, I think. And yeah, the last thing that I want to share is more something very general, but it's like I think music is super universal, and it just like connects people over any boundary. There are no boundaries in music. And this is really beautiful, especially when you teach music production. I teach also music production via Zoom, so online, and I have students from all over the world. And I mean, of course, we can only do it in English or in German now, but still, it's like it immediately connects people at a very deep level somehow. And it's like you press play and you listen together to like this loop, and both are just nodding their head, and it's like it's so simple but it's so beautiful. And for me, this is it's amazing, like we just can have this connection over the internet. I mean, it's also beautiful to have people in here in the studio, but that it's also possible to have this connection through the internet and through music somehow, it's just mind-blowing to me. And I really enjoy this process. So yeah, these are the things that I want to share. Now, let me know, please, in the comments if you liked this, or if you didn't like it. You can also say that, of course, if I just ramble too much. If I should do something like this again in the future, maybe, I would be very interested to know that. Now, yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you so much for listening and for watching. See you in the next one. Peace.